to some code. Everyone is doing okay this evening. I'll pick up where we left off on yesterday with our application. Just to do a quick recap, well, I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and start the server. It may be better to show you it versus me just explaining it. It's been a long day, but we are here. Run npm run dev. Kick things off on localhost 3000. Nice. It maintained the authentication, so didn't need to sign back in. That's pretty cool, per usual. But what we have is a full stack, well, excuse me, what we have is a Nextjs application that is connected to a Postgres database via Prisma. And we've added in authentication using Google OAuth, specifically the social, or excuse me, we've added authentication via Better Off, and we're using the Google OAuth social login method. And eventually we'll add more methods, but this evening I want to go ahead and add the ability to create posts. So it will cause us to create a relationship between the user and post, and also set up some migrations, server actions, etc. But picking up what we left off from last night, we are currently logged in. This is logged in as a user. We have the state being managed of the login process so that the user can see, or if they are already in the process of attempting to log in, they can't just continue to click the button. They have to wait until you get a response back. So we just have a loading indicator. But right now, just logged out, so no one's logged in. But we'll click log in with Google. We get 1 moment. We get the JADAD, or we click on it. And if all goes well, which I'm anticipating it does, it shows that we're logged in as the JADAD. And if we wish to log out, we can just hit the log out button, no problem there. So what I want to do now is, for logged in users, present the option to create a post. Very, very simple. And currently we have, excuse me, Prisma with the Prisma migration set up already. We have a schema of a user, and we're storing the ID, the email, the name, which is optional. And if the email is verified or not, we also have the image if there's ones associated with it. But probably most, if not equally important, we have the session and the account being stored. This is, like I said, being provided via, this is standard schema provided by Better Off that gives us this option to manage it. And of course, we're storing the session and the account and verification. Well, we're not using verification for this, but we could if we wish to. So like I said, in this video, what I want to do is add in a additional model named post, which will give us access to organize posts within the database. And we'll need to set up a relationship between user and post so that we can see who created the post. That user can review, capture, and see all of their posts. And we'll just have a little bit of fun with it and do some various things. But for right now, let's just focus on setting up the actual migration. I don't think we have a post model already in the database. Let's check that first. Go to new terminal. We'll use npx prisma studio. Oh, have if I add an O at the end of it. Just looking at it. Yeah, we just have a user verification session account. I think I had a post in a previous video, so I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't still there, but I guess it would have told me if it was. So for right now, we'll just stop the server. Close this out. We'll stop the studio as well. Let's shift our focus to updating the schema. So we'll go create a model. This will be a post. We'll give it a ID of string at default. CUID. We'll want to store a title, which will be a string. Title, which will be string. We'll have content, which will be a string as well. And for right now, we'll just do created at and updated at and versus retyping it. I think I can just copy this. And paste it in. We'll clean it up a little bit. You can always add additional fields to this, but for right now, this will be suffice just to have the ability to create a post. And then now probably some of the more important fields that we want to add in order to create that relationship between the user and post. We want to store the author ID, which will be a string. And it will also capture the actual author, which will be a user. And we'll type at relation, which is establishing that relationship. This will be user post. And make sure you have it in parentheses, and we'll go fields. We'll be looking for the author ID, and we want to reference, but it is references. We don't want an emoji. We want to reference the actual ID, and this is going to be coming from the user field. And then on delete, we want to make sure we cascade, meaning that we want the post to be deleted by the user. We want the post to be deleted if anything were to happen to the actual user. We're not going to keep the user. I guess you could. In some systems you could, but for this project, we're not going to worry about it. And then just to make sure that we keep things unique, we'll go double @ symbol index. We'll be looking for the author ID. And then we want to make sure that we actually map this to post. So what this model is doing is saying that we're going to have a ID, which will be a string. And we want to make sure that is unique. Each post will have a title, which will be stored as a string, content, which will be stored as a string. We'll also capture when it was created, when it was updated. And then to establish that connection between the post and the user, we're going to capture the author ID, which will be passed in from the server. And then we want that author ID to help have the relationship to establish with the user. And if the user gets deleted, we want to make sure we cascade and delete the additional posts that go along with that specific user. Great. So now what we'll need to to do is establish the relationship um, between the actual user and the post. So we have the post care. I mean, yes, we have the post field care for. Now we just need to update the user so that the user can have more than one post. So I think all we'll need to do is add in a user field, add in the user field, excuse me, post. And this will be looking for post with the empty array. And we'll go at relation. This relation will be user post. User post. And this should mirror what we have for the post itself, just to make sure. Yeah, we went user post with an S. Yep, user post with an S. And then for the user, we also want to, we already have it mapped as user, so that's perfect. All right, so now with this, clean this up a little bit, make sure I save it. We should be ready to just migrate these changes to the database to make sure that we don't have any errors and that it takes. And we'll just go new terminal and type in the command npx prisma migrate dev. And we'll just press enter. We can name it in a moment. Let's see, this line is not a valid field. Definition. So it's saying we don't need to map it. Okay. I thought that was in the, I believe this is what came from the CLI, but it's okay. Let's just remove it and see what we get now. Back to the terminal. Oh, wrong one. Let me see something. Well, let's see if we can see the Prisma docs. Right here. Prisma Nextjs. I think it's the second one. But nevertheless, let's check it and see what we have here. Yeah, it's the second one. Yeah. So it actually doesn't have any relationship. So we can just go, you know what? I'm just going to copy this verbatim. Paste that in. And then for the user, there isn't anything else but user, right? We can remove this. So what we have is the user model, and we just have the post with a referencing the post model with the empty array. And then for the user, excuse me, for the post field, we have the author ID, which will be captured as a string. And then we'll use the author will be referencing the actual user model. And it's going to look for this author ID, and it's going to reference the ID of the user. So let's save this and attempt to update the schema now. looking for it used increment, it used the integer. I don't want to use an integer. Let me see if I can use this. Hey, there we go. And let's see what we have now. Wow, it is. Yep. This will be adding post. What's going on with sessions? Insert sessions. But let's see. It said, wait a minute, let me go back to it. Insert an update on table session run is the foreign key constraint. User ID field. That's odd. Update. Let me see something else. Should reset the public schema. Got it. Is it npm prisma migrate reset? This may be npx. Prisma migrate reset. Do you sure you want to reset? Yes. Cool. So then now let's migrate dev to update it with these changes. Says that it's already in sync, so let's try it out. Prisma Studio. All right, that looks good. Looks like we have a post model, a user, session, everything else. And just to check it out, I see the post has a email. No, I'm sorry, the user has an email. I just want to see if the user has post. And yes, we can see that the user has the post array. And if we click on post, I see the post has the author field with author ID. So that's perfect. All right, so the migration actually took successfully. So now let's focus on getting logged back in and having the ability to create a post. We'll delete that one. And this one we'll just go npm run dev and press enter. And we'll refresh our local host. And it appears the server is up and running properly. Now let's just make sure that we can log in without issue. So we'll click login. One moment, it's compiling. We'll use the JADAD. All right, and you can see we are successfully logged in. So what I want to do now is set up a server action that will give us the ability to add post. And eventually we'll add rate limiting as well. I want to try to build this a little more as a production grade, and with the rate limiting piece, we're going to use Redis to help us with that. So, but first, let's just add the ability to create posts first. So we'll start with adding, and there's a few places you can store these. There isn't a specific location. I like to store them in a lib directory so that I can access this function a little easier anywhere throughout the application. So in lib, we'll create a directory named actions and then a file name post.ts. This file we're just going to add, or we're going to have the ability to create, update, delete, get all posts, and et cetera, et cetera. But for right now, we're just going to focus on the ability to create. And I like to use Zod for type safety and making sure that we're getting good data. And if we get any error messages or anything, we can easily just pass those from the back to the front. So let's go ahead and install the Zod package now. So in the terminal, we'll just type npm izod, press enter. Perfect. So within this file, we'll mark it as use server, and this will give us the ability to use this throughout the app. We'll import Z from Zod. Yep. We'll bring in Prisma, and it should be coming from /prisma. We're inside of the lib directory, so it's going to go out one folder and then into the correct actions folder. And then the next item we'll need to bring in is was the auth. And I think we use import auth. And this is going to come from /auth. Yep. If it may be the auth client, but if it's the auth client, we can always just change it. That won't be a big deal. So we'll start by defining a object that will help us capture or send back or provide a standard of what type of information we want to accept for the title and the content. So I'm just going to name this const input and set it equal to z.object. And if you aren't familiar with that, this is the syntax that you'll use per the Zod documentation. You always write or create things in objects. Would encourage you to read upon it, but there are other validation tools or packages that you can use. I just prefer to use Zod. And inside of this, we'll create a title, which will be z.string. And we'll use the .trim method, which is a JavaScript method. And it will set the min characters to 1. And the maximum amount of characters for this will be, we'll just say 100. We don't want to have titles too long. Sorry about all the type safety content. And then next, we'll create a content field. We'll go z.string for this one. Then we'll say trim. And we'll set a maximum amount of characters to 10,000. And this is the syntax that you'll use to write 10,000. And because this is optional, we need to pass that field. That way we have the ability to use it or not, just depending upon what we want to do with this specific field for the post. I think for right now, I probably won't worry about adding the content. We'll probably come back and do a rich text editor for it later on, but not too focused on it right now. But what I am focused on is creating a asynchronous function that will give us the ability to create a post. And this is the function that we'll be using inside of our form. So we'll create a asynchronous function. I think I'll name this create post. So we'll go export async function create post, and it will take form data. First thing I want to do is make sure that I have a authenticated user, and not only for security purposes, but also so that I can know and I can attach this post back to a specific user. So we'll go const session is going to be equal to await auth, and I think it is .api. Yep, get session, and we can just call it. This is what should be coming from better off. Let's see, get session. Okay, I guess I don't have to call it. I guess you just leave it as is. If we do, we can always change it, but it's given. Let me see something. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so you get it, but it's looking for the headers. I'm not sure I'll be able to pass this in use server, but let's just see. And I'm just going to copy, actually I could just copy this exact same syntax. Probably should create a separate file for it so I don't have to repeat that exact same code, but it's all good. Maybe if we refactor it later on, I'll put this syntax in a separate file so I don't have to retype it over and over again, but I may have to, we'll see. But with this is basically just making sure that we bring in the auth session so that we get access to the session object, and we could do a few things with it based upon this server action and what we want to do. So with this one, we want to have the ability to not only redirect the user if we don't have a session, you don't have access to utilize this function, but I also want to capture the ID of the user if they are logged in. Excuse me. That way I know who they are, number one. And number two, I know who to attach the post to once the user creates a post. So we'll go const user is going to be equal to session dot user, and then we'll say if there is no user, we want to throw a new error of unauthorized. Okay, just basically saying right here, if there is not a logged in user, we're going to redirect you because you don't have access to this function, and this function is going to be on a specific route so that it won't be the main homepage. But for right now, just for testing purposes, we'll make it on the homepage, but eventually we'll move it to a dashboard where the user will have the ability to see all of their specific posts on a dashboard. But for right now, this will be just fine. And if we have a logged in user, then we are okay to proceed, and we'll go const parsed, and that's just the name of the function or the name of this variable that will be getting access to the parse data. We'll say input dot safe parse, and what we want to parse is the title, which will be form data dot get the title, and you also want to get the content, which will be form data dot get, and we'll pass in the no, we'll go form data dot actually I don't need to do dot get. We want to do form data dot get. No, excuse me. We want to do. Let me think about this. Yeah, right here. I'm tripping. Form data dot get the title, and it will also get the content. Let me just add that there. Perfect. Sorry, I was drawing a quick blank for a second, but I think I am back on track. And then we'll say, just for security measures, if we don't get parse.success, we there we go. Sorry about that. Throw new error. And we'll say invalid input. So that's basically what that's saying, is that we didn't get a good input. Let's send it back to the user so that they can make the appropriate updates and give us good data. So that's perfect. But if we do get a user and we get good form data, then we are then we are in a good position to create a post. So underneath this if statement, we'll go await. And because because I don't need to return the actual post back to the browser, I'm not going to include a return statement. I may just include so we'll go await prisma.post, and we'll be using the create method. There we go. We passing in data, which is consistent with what consistent with what we'll want to pass in based upon us using Zod. So we'll say data, and then we know we're going to get the title, which will be parse.data. Sorry about that. I'm having some connection issues on my side. My apologies. All right, so we dot title, TITLE, and then we'll go content parsed dot data dot content, and then last but not least, we want to capture the author ID, and we'll just say user dot ID. Yep. And with this, we now have the ability to create a post. Now, like I said, I'm going to also bring in, let's go with import revalidate data. No, I'm sorry, revalidate path. And this is going to come from Nextjs. This way we can get the most up-to-date data from the server. You know, Nextjs has the caching mechanisms, and it doesn't always capture the most up-to-date data, but this should make sure that we revalidate the data from the server. And then we'll go with import redirect, and that should be coming from next navigation. So we'll go ahead and save that. Sorry about that. All right, so let's use the two most recent imports, revalidate data, which is going to revalidate the data on the server. So we're getting the most up-to-date information, and then redirect from next navigation is going to redirect us back to a desired page. And in this instance, is going to be the home page. Redirect. All right. So now, just for testing purposes, we'll move this into a more permanent home later on. But for right now, let's just create a route grouping. And with Nextjs, you know, you have a file-based routing system. So anything you put within the app directory will be treated as an individual route. But because we want to store some additional items within the directory, if we want Next to ignore those, there are some special naming conventions that you need to follow. And what we want to do first is ignore this is by enclosing the name of it in parentheses. So inside of the app directory, I'm going to create a route grouping named dashboard. And the way we'll do that is just by enclosing dashboard with parentheses. And then we'll add a folder named dashboard, which will represent the actual dashboard route. And to ensure it is a page inside of dashboard, we'll add a page.tsx. And just to make sure this work, we'll go export default function, excuse me, async function, async function dashboard page. We'll click save. Dashboard page. We'll click save. Okay. All right. So then now let's just add another tab. That should take care of that. See why we're getting that error message. Just add a new tab, and we'll call it localhost 3000. We'll go to the URL localhost 3000 dash slash dashboard. Press enter, and we should get the dashboard page. Perfect. So inside of this, I'll move a little faster. Having some system issues on my end. We're going to import create post, which is the function that we just created, coming from @/lib/actions then post. We're going to bring in prisma, which is going to give us all of the access that we'll need to mutate and query anything auth. Import auth. This is going to be coming from @/lib/auth.